Okay, so now we're going to start lights. So let's start lights on our deck. What lights did I buy? These are the lights I bought. They came from Amazon. Amico. The light basically has two different pieces. Has the light that goes in the wall, in the ceiling, wherever you want to put it, and it has a box. So the goal here is to put the light about right there, and the box can now hang out, which would be mounted right above this. So the box is going to lay here, and we're going to drill a hole through here to run the wires all the way through. And we'll have this set of lights will be on one circuit. This set of lights at the other end will be on another wire, and they all run in to the same place to get power. I'll get into the wires I'm using, why I'm using them, my choice for using them later on. Right now we're getting into drilling the holes. So the question is, how many lights do we want to have? I'm going to have lights at this end over here. These are going to be kind of tricky. So we're going to start our lights here. 1 light, 2 light, 3 light, 4 light. So we're going to put 4 lights across here. So we have to measure our space to get the right spacing for all the lights. So going from this to here, remember, you can't see these beams, so you don't use the beams as a guide. You use the beams right now to make sure you're not in the way, but don't use the beams as a guide, because we did this roof. When we did the roof, we put the beams according to the ceiling, according to the roof material, not according to being the same spacing. All these are different spacings. You want the lights to be equally spaced. So you got to pick the spot that you're going to put the lights in. We'll figure that's 6 feet to here. We'll mark this where you can't see it, up in the top. So basically you're going to mark right here because this is going to be covered up. That's 6 feet. And we go from this side. That's 6 feet. And the place between the three of them end up being 4 feet. So we got 16 feet. Let's see. 1 light, 2 light, 3 light. I got enough lights. The question is, how many lights are we going to put up? If we were going to do this properly, I would wait, but as you know, I only have a certain amount of time to do things. I would wait tonight. I would hook up one of these lights. I would hold it up here. I would see how it shines. Ideally, we would want to put the lights in such a way that if we were to put the light up here, we could look at our basic area down here, and 1 light would shine so much. There's first light. We would take this space, set our second light, so it shines from here to here. Now we get our spacing from light to light, and we know that's the spacing all the lights have to be. And we've done it in such a way that you know exactly where the lights need to go. So what you can do is you can measure the space from here to here. We're looking at 3 feet. So here's what I'm going to do. I took my light, I put an extension cord on it. I'm going to go into a dark room, figure on 3 feet away, and see what the message is, and see what the angle is. Looks like it's a train coming. Yes, this is my porch. This is why I bought this house, because I'm putting in trains and I am right on a train track that I can clearly see. I can sit on the porch, underneath my lights or no lights during the day or night, and if I want to, I can watch the train go by. If I don't want to, I don't have to. I close the doors, it's all soundproofed. I barely hear it. I do feel some vibration, but very little sound. I sleep through them, not a problem. It's just cool, hence my other video line is going to be about trains. But we're currently in my theater. So I have a controlled light area where I'm not going to have any light coming in. I do have a light in the top so I can see. That's why you can see my hand somewhat, because the light on top, but it's so dim it's not going to affect. So I'm going to take my tape measure. I'm going to measure up from the floor 3 feet. It's about right underneath my Citizen Kane sign. Now I can take my light. I can put it at my 3 feet area, and I can see that these are so wide that at 3 feet you can see from one end to the other. Making sure I'm at 3 feet. I am exactly at 3 feet. So now I know that at 3 feet, these are very wide lights. So at 3 feet, I can get 5 feet easy. So now I have proven my spacing can be between 4 and 5 feet apart from each other. Three foot. 3 foot. From this side, we'll do 3 foot. We'll do 3 foot. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be putting 4 lights in. Lights are going to be at a 3 foot distance. 3 foot distance is coming from each side. 3 foot this way, 3 foot this way, another 3 foot this way, this way. Between the 2 lights in the middle, there's going to be 4 foot. Okay, the train's passed, so now we can continue. What I'm doing right here is drilling holes for the wires to go. You want to put them right in the middle of the board. Because these are 2x8s. Most screws are going to be 2 inches. So with the wires in the middle, if I was to put a screw up, I won't catch it. If by chance I put a screw down, I'm not going to catch it. Because you're not going to use 4-inch screws here. And since it's my house, I know not to use 4-inch screws, so I don't have to worry about it. So we're going to have a light here every 41 inches. That was the measurement now. Because it doesn't hit any posts and it's equally spaced with no post being hit. 1, 2, 3, 4. We already measured each light has a 5-inch pattern at 3 feet because of the design of the light. So it says it has a 5-inch pattern with 4 lights across 16 inches. We're well beyond the point, and we're going to be giving an equal light all the way across the front of this. And that's what we're doing right now, is lights across the front. So now what we have to do is you have to figure out what distance they're going to be from the side. There's 2 factors. Number 1, you don't want to drill a hole so it covers most of one board, because then you have a weak spot. You want to cover 2 boards. That way the lights are positioned in such a way that you don't have to worry about it. Second thing, if I'm sitting here and I'm eating, if I'm sitting here and I'm actually eating on the bench, and I'm sitting here eating, I want to make sure the light's not behind me, because then I'll be in the way of what I'm doing. Or if I'm bending over, I want to make sure the light's not behind me. So going straight up, that means the light needs to be right here. So my light spot is going to be eight inches in. 8 inches is going to allow it to shine down on what I'm doing, and 8 inches is also going to allow it to shine behind me onto the floor before I sit down. So we're going to go 8 inches in all the way across. Now we have a 3-inch hole. So we go 8 inches in, we're right in the middle of this beam. So if we measure out, we're going to be drilling right there. We're going to be drilling I'm on the same spot right here. Right here. Right here. So these particular lights have a 3-inch hole you drill. They're 3-inch lights, 3-inch hole. We already measured the output, so the output is good. So all we have to do is drill a round hole. Put the bit right in the hole. Make sure the drill's on 2. Speed things up a lot. Now you want to make sure you don't squeeze too hard and push too hard, because you have to remember there's still a whole roof, the head, above you that you put in. You don't want to put holes in it. If you look, I look pretty well spaced. Now if you make a mistake and put the drill in the wrong place and drill the wrong hole, you just have to take these down and put another set up and then re-drill the hole. But you look to make sure it's as close to every one as it can be and where you measured. There we go, we got all our holes. If you notice, this will fit through here very, very tight in your point space, but we have all this space. So the easiest thing to do, we'll disconnect this, we'll put it through the hole, and then we'll reconnect it up. And we'll do that with all the lights. There's a switch on the side of these lights. You pick the wattage, the color you want. So when we put these boxes up, which in this case is going to be like right here. When we put the boxes up, the switch is going to be on the bottom. So we're going to label and put a little mark here. So we need to do something with the switch. We'll put an arrow so we know where the switches are. However, in the future, if we want to change the color of these lights, with the switch, with these being added over here, I want to make sure that if I get a long screwdriver, I can reach in there and actually change the color. Because things change as time goes on. And since there's different colors, I want to be able to take advantage of that in the future. Now, the end of this deck is going to have a barbecue on it, which is currently sitting in the garage. So when it comes time for that, we'll be positioning one light directly over the barbecue and one light over the station next to the barbecue. So this end is going to have two lights to shine up the barbecue. That end is not going to have lights like that. That end's going to have a bigger light. And the bigger light is actually going to be able to turn. I'll show you that later. But we're doing these lights now. So this is in. And here you go. You ready for the big install? Bend these back. Push it through the hole so they touch the rim. Put your finger around to make sure nothing's there. Push them in. That's the big install. Okay, so we're ready to start wiring. As always, let's go through the supplies. We have what I call pancake top screws to hold our boxes to the wall. One screw for each box. We're all happy. We have 3 conductors because every light is going to have a wire coming in, a light wire, and a wire going out to the next light. That's 3. So 2 of these per light will give me all the wiring I need. No wire nuts needed. We have our 3/8" fittings that are going to go in the box. 2 in each box. 1 in, 1 out to the next light. Except the in box is only going to have 1. Then we have wire. So, you're probably thinking to yourself, why is he using an extension cord? I'm not using an extension cord. If you haven't guessed already from my shirt or for other things I've said, I actually have a pool company. Pool company installs lights. The lights only come in a 50-foot cord or a 100-foot cord. So usually if we're confused or if we don't know where the line runs, because every pool, we don't know any idea where the line actually runs from one light from the light to the junction box where the light has to hook up. It's a solid cord. We order 100-foot lines. And if we end up having a little bit of line left over, it is. But if I have a lot of line left over, I bring it up here for my train project, my electrical project. These cords are designed to be underwater, not get wet, actually be in the water inside the pool. So you can't get much waterproofing more than that. So when I do any of my projects, I use the cord. I have 4 or 5 different sizes. And I use the cords from my pool days. That way I don't have to buy wire. This one actually is rated for 2 amps. I'm dealing with 1/4 amp lights. And it's ready to go. If you actually read the cord, this is actually 14 gauge wire, 600 volts, water resistant skin. That's what I'm using here. That's why I drilled my holes all the way along here, just big enough for my wire to fit in. So if anybody has that mystery on why I'm using what I'm using, that's why I'm using it. So, wiring up one of these lights. Let's get situated and we can get one wired. Okay, so a few things. This is one of the boxes. See where I put my mark on. The box comes inside the box. You have different places for the wire to go. Because the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to do both ends. You just bend them down, they break off. I have seen people just put the wires through there, but these edges are not completely sharp, but I don't like my wires sitting there touching those. So we're going to go 2 of these in, one on each side. That way the wire stays right where it's supposed to stay. Also, I want to point out the fact that these are not halogen bulbs. They don't pull 40, 50, 75 watts a bulb. These actual rating is 7 watts. If I had halogen bulbs that were pulling that much wattage like the old non-LED lights, I would not be using this cord. I would be using Romax. If you wanted to use Romax, because you don't have this available, that is what you should be using. I choose not to use it. These are instruction videos on how I do things. You choose to do things differently, all the more power to you. You choose to use a different cord, that is great. I choose this, so this is what I choose. When you put these in, make sure they're facing up. You don't want to put them in so they're facing crooked and they bump into each other and you can't tighten them up. That's just a bunch of annoyance. So you want to loosen all these up. Let them fall so they come all the way down. Now you have the space. Take one cord at a time. I did cut 2 pieces of cord because this is a middle light. One cord's going to the first light, one's going to the next light. Put the cords in. You want to push them all the way in until they stop. And then you tighten them up. You do not want to put them in so the cords are hanging out and tighten them up and have the wire hanging out. The wire hanging out being clamped is not a good thing. You can clamp the cord in. See, now inside I have my wires and they're tight. I'll do the next wire the same exact way. Close it up so this falls. If you leave this open, this doesn't fall down. Well, it does sometimes, like now, of course. You want to hold it, you can hold it. And then tighten that up. And this is what we're going to do to every light all the way along here. And we have 2 different sets. 2 lights this direction, 2 lights that direction. So there we go. This is done. Now all we have to do, according to your connectors. Okay, so these lights come with connectors. They come with push connectors, which means under a lot of pressure you have to push them in. That means you must use a wire that is solid, like the ones that come with it. Solid wire. You cannot use a braided wire. They will not push in. The connectors I buy that I showed you, they actually open up. You open them up and you have like a door. Push the wire in, close it, it clamps. It doesn't matter what kind of wire it is. It still clamps. That's why I use them. On the side of these, it gives you a little graph and it tells you how long the wire has to be. So every connector is going to be different. This connector is exactly that long. So that's why I'm making the wires the same length as the connector. It's my thing. I like putting the wires next to each other. That's going to continue on and put the wire for the light at the end. And you just hook up all your connectors. And then the light is wired. Obviously, I don't have to tell you to make sure the power is on because there's no power on any of these. All these are unwired and ready to go. Let me get this done. Okay, so all the wires are now hooked up. I have 3 connector pieces, 1 ground, 1 neutral, 1 power. Slide them, put them in. But you can't do that yet because you got to take one of these screws and put into here so you can screw this in so it hangs. You don't want it to hang you want it to be mounted someplace. You have to also remember you have a metal roof. You do not want it mounted so the metal touches your metal roof. Is there going to be a problem? There shouldn't be, but you want to make sure that it's mounted so it doesn't touch your metal roof. Now I'm mounted. I take all my connectors, I put them in my little box, I close the cover, it stays, then I hook up my wire. One of these wires goes through this hole and this hole to the next light over. One of these wires goes to this hole and this hole to the next light over. And there. One light box is in. Now we do that to all of them. 1, 2, 3 more. Same exact thing. I'm not going to follow the thing. I'm not going to repeat myself over and over again doing the same thing. So if you didn't get it or didn't have a question, you can either leave me a text underneath, a message, or rewind the video and watch it again what I did. Remember, this is how I choose to do it. This isn't the way you have to do it. You can do it your own way. This is the way I choose to get it done. Okay, so I'm changing my technique some. Now, I find it a lot easier. I'm going to put the wire in, tighten it up first, then screw that in, and then the wires are going to be right in place where I need them. So instead of putting this in and then putting the wires into it, and have the box open and the box closed and all that, I'm actually going to put the wires in first and then put the connector into the box. Okay, so I've wired all my lights into a center point. The center point is going to have a junction box, again, a sealed junction box, because you don't ever have wire connections just floating. You want to make sure they're in a box. And I have number 12 wire, which again is overkill because of the wattage. That's going to run from these two into the main light source. So we have 14 wire, then we have 12 wire running to the main light source. And I'm going to hook all that up, same way as the other stuff. So what I ended up doing is I put a piece of wood here. So I take my junction box and mount it right there. I'm not going to be able to get to it, but it's mounted properly, the way it should be. And that way I can continue on. Okay, so we're all done. We start over there. We have an extra wire running to the next light that hasn't been put in yet. We start there. We go all the way around, junction box. Right here we have a junction box with the wire that runs, again, through the hole, and a wire that has not hooked up yet. Then we go to the next light. We go to the next light, and we have our wire running over and coming down, which is going to be for our barbecue lights. We're not there yet. So before I finish the roof, the ceiling, I wanted to test the lights. So they're all working. So here's our cable that comes from the lights. Here's our old light. I have a light. Best way to check electrical is to turn something on. In this case, it is labeled. Then turn something off. So it's on and it's off. Now we remove the old light, the old switch. Because yes, we have a new switch going in. So I'm going to remove the old switch. Here's my old on-off. This would be this is my power coming in. So this would be my power coming in. This is my power going out to the old light. We're going to take that away. Then I have this here, which is actually all my neutrals. Take off the wire nut from that. And the neutral that goes up to my light that goes up, which is in the back, you can see it goes up this conduit, looks like the last one put on. So we will take that one off of our list. Nope, wrong one. This one. Take that one off our list. We'll put these two back. And behind this is my ground. So it looks like I'll have to take this switch off anyway. So I can get to the ground behind it. There's all my grounds. One ground goes to the casing, one ground goes to the fire pit, one ground comes from the feed, and one ground goes up. So we're taking off the one that goes up. It'll be this one here. So now all three of these wires are disconnected. I can put these back. I know they're ground because they're all bare wires. Now I can move to my light. Now taking the light off, first thing I have to do is you move the light from the back plate. This first half of the project, I'm still debating about the inside switch. So we're going to get the light working without the inside switch to begin with. I can always easily open this cover up, and I can put the inside switch in. There's my light. Conduit, and how is it attached to the wall? It appears somebody broke off a bunch of screws. So they screwed it to the wall, and they broke off the screws when they screwed it. Let's loosen the beam. This is a metal pipe. So there's a screw holding the metal pipe in. Easiest thing is to take the metal, make the screw out. If you're going to reuse metal pipe, most people don't. You save the screw. In this case, I'm not going to reuse the metal pipe. I might reuse the light though. They didn't even use a wire nut. They just taped the wires. Oh, let's put them together and we'll tape them. That's good enough. We'll tape them up. Yes, I make comments of what people do that are so far off right that I have to make a comment about it. There's a lot of comments I've made about this house. That is on there tight. Okay, when something's on tight, you have to be tighter. So I got my bit to put on my hammer tool. Change the battery over. So I'm not cutting anymore. It's really great doing this right now because there's a great wind, and as soon as you leave this cover that we just got through building, you have a lot of hot sun. Put this on reverse. Take this off so I can see better. I see one screw broke off. Second screw is in there and it is broken off. So now we have to work our way off. Maybe that last screw was holding it. There. So with that off, this should lift right out. And we're done with that. Now what I do is I put an adapter in. I'm going to keep that switch plate for the time being. Take the new adapter, thread that in. PVC pipe and pipe cutters. Figuring out where our pipe's going to go. We'll cut our pipe. That's the side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take something and we're going to go around the inside of this PVC pipe, because you do not want the PVC pipe to be sharp. That gives us a nice flat edge. And that's what we want to do. We want to make a nice flat edge. There's my flat edge. Now I'm going to take my light cord. I'm going to put it down the PVC pipe. Take my light cord, put it into my box. There we go, it's in the box. Here's my new conduit. It's going to go up. So this is the dimmer switch we're going to be using. I had it hooked up because I was testing it. This dimmer does not require neutral. It's really simple. You have a red or red wire, a gold wire, second gold wire. Doesn't matter which gold wire you go to, you can put the master of the gold wire and the red goes to your light. This is a Lutron switch. It is not remote. It is not intelligent. It is not anything except for what it is. So it makes things a lot easier. If I had a three-way switch, and I was going to hook up a three-way switch to this, a three-way switch has an input and two outputs. The input is usually a different color. This one is black. Outputs are the same color, gold and gold. Basically, it's a two-way switch. Up, the output goes to this switch. Push it down, the output goes to this switch. That's why on the dimmer, both of the golds are the same, because you hook up the two golds from your three-way switch to the two golds from your dimmer switch, and you're putting power to whichever one. They're both connected. So it doesn't matter if this is connected or that is connected. This switch reverses and this switch reverses. So you basically have two three-way switches that kind of work off each other. To put that in, I have to drill a hole in the wall, get on the inside, take down pictures, figure out where it is. At this point, I'm not ready to do that. That's why I'm only going to be doing the outdoor switch today. Now, when it comes to working cord like this, as I told you in the past video, I have a lot of this. When you take the cord off, if you're cutting it and you cut into the actual wire, you disable that. You have to shorten it and cut it again. So there's an issue with doing that. So what I do is I get an X-Acto knife and I adjust it so the edge is only big enough for the cord. Now I can safely, without looking, go around the whole cord and cut the cord without having to worry about cutting any wires on the inside of the cord, which makes your life a lot easier. And this is the one I saved for this, because I've already adjusted it and it's right where it needs to be in order to cut all the wires. Make it big. And shorten the cord. Again, should you use this wire to run your electrical in the house? This is my house. This is the wire I chose to run. I got a hell of a lot of it. It's the right grade, it's the right system, it's the right everything. Officially, this wire here should be Romax. You should be running Romax. Again, don't do what I do. Do what is safe for you. I do what is safe for me. So now I have my neutral. My neutral is going to go to my other neutrals. So I'm going to look at the length. Cut my wires so it's the same length. Cut the neutral off. Take the surround off. So again, it's the same length. And I will take my wire nut borrowed wire nut and put that back on my connection. You never nut the wire nut to be what actually connects things. I always like to spin them myself to get them nice and tight. And the way the wire nut is actually a cover over it. Unless all the wires are braided, then you can do it by just spinning it, and it will actually spin all the braided wires together. So I'm going to put my neutral somewhere in the middle. So I know this is going to take up a lot of my space. I still have the ground. Ground is going to be done the same way. Go to the end of the wires, figure out where you're going to put it, cut it, make your split, strip the end off so it's the same length as the other ground wires. You don't want a lot longer, you don't want a lot shorter. Since this is a braided, I'm going to take my current ground wires and I'm going to spin them together super tight, and that way my braid is going to be next in line going on top. And I'll spring the braid in. Length isn't as important when it comes to ground because everything is basically already bare. So we're going to put our ground around. Use our wire nut to wire nut everything together. I'll take this entire mess of wires and move them all the way back in the box, making sure that my wires from my switch are not going to touch anything. I'm going to put my switch back in first when I'm not changing, because that has a home. I've already hooked up my wiring for my adjustable switch. If I do decide to put the indoor connector in, I will in turn have a video on it. I did finish the new flagpole today. There's some things about it that I'm kind of upset about. You can watch the flagpole video that should be mounted someplace. This is a metal box. This is not a plastic box. So since it being a metal box, I'm actually grounded everything to the metal box with the screws that I'm using. If it was a plastic box, you gotta check to make sure on is on and off is off. If it was a plastic box, all your outlets, all your switches, everything needs to be grounded. But since this is a metal box, and I am grounding the metal box, anything touching the metal box is grounded. That's the way I look at it. If you don't look at it that way, you're free to look at it how you want to look at it. Now in this case, I am the only one here. So I don't have to worry about the electrical wires because I'm the only one here. I am 58 years old. My first electrical work I did was putting outlets in my parents' house. I was 12 years old then. My dad told me what to do. I did it. We bought a house that had no 3-wire outlets, so we had to put 3-prong outlets in. Take the ground it to the box, put the outlet back in. My dad told me one fact that day. I am now 58 years old. I still think of that same fact. The fact was always simple. Whenever I work on electrical, whenever I do electrical work anywhere, wherever I do anything in the house, I always have the same fact. This case, I'm alone, so I don't have to worry about that fact. He says, son, test the outlet, look at the outlet, respect the outlet, and assume that some idiot at the other end of the outlet that you have no idea what he's doing has just turned it on. So whenever I'm working with outlets or anything, I am always under the habit, I have my tools, not these, and I assume everything is live. So when it is live, it doesn't bother me. When it isn't live, it makes things good. Because you never know what's at the other end at the house. Somebody's working, somebody turns the breaker on. So I prepare for that fact. Of course, me being the smart person I am, I said, well, since you're the only one here, are you going to be that idiot? And my dad basically did not like that. He just walked away. And for that day, that was the last piece of helpful information he told me. But I find that story very interesting. My dad happened to not be the idiot, but it was an interesting story. And I still remember that fact. Always treat electrical like it's live. Whenever it is live, you'll still be here to tell somebody about it. But like I said, in this particular case, I am completely alone. There's nobody else here. So this is the outdoor switch I'm going to put in. It is undercover. You could probably just put it there officially, unofficially, and it would probably be just fine. But I'm not going to chance it. Even with all the chances I make, I'm not going to chance a nice windy storm coming in and everything here getting wet. And now the switch is wet and it's not good. The one thing I am going to do is I am going to use the 4-screw method. When you put these boxes in, the covers in, you can either use the screw that's there, or you can use the screw that's here, the higher one, or you have these 4 holes and these 4 holes on the other side. The most secure way is to use the 4-hole method. Make sure everything's over far enough. Make sure it still fits with it being over far enough. And then use those 4 holes to hold the box on. Because then the gasket and everything is not sealed by the outlets that are under the screws underneath it. It's actually sealed by the actual screws that you put in. Let's make sure this still fits. And it looks like it does. It already has the foam on the back. So all you have to do is knock out those 4 holes. And one thing that's popping up is the one on the left is not, the outlet on the left, the switch on the left is not lined up. So if you're going to use a box that completely covers, you can actually loosen the switches a little bit so they move a little bit. They don't have to be completely tight. And now when you put the cover on, you can move the switches around. Because the biggest thing with the cover is that it matches up to the holes. So now you can move the switches around back and forth a little bit to get them to match up to the holes in the switch. usual, you do the corner screw in the opposite direction, as it's sometimes called in my family, kitty corner direction. Once you get those screws in, you can line up your switches and everything, because you're on your way to be pushed all the way back. And one thing that's popping up is the one on the left is not, the outlet on the left, the switch on the left is not lined up. So if you're going to use a box that completely covers, you're going to actually loosen the switches a little bit so they move a little bit. They don't have to be completely tight. And now when you put the cover on, you can move the switches around. Because the biggest thing with the cover is that it matches up to the holes. So now you can move the switches around back and forth a little bit to get them to match up to the holes in the switch. Like that. For usual, you do the corner screw in the opposite direction, as it's sometimes called in my family, kitty corner direction. Once you get those screws in, you can line up your switches and everything, because you're on your way to be pushed all the way back. And you get a better seal if you do it get this method, where you have the 4 screws instead of just the 2 holding on each switch. So now you have the screws holding the switch, and then you have the cover being held on tight as can be on top of all that. So now you're dealing with a really sealed, watertight cover. And that's about it. Lights are now completely hooked up. So the project is complete. Thanks for watching. As usual, do what you can to get your projects done safely, but also spend some fun. Improvements or projects should be fun. Not everything can be work. So in that case, signing off on this, fixing some things, building some other things, putting it all together, all is well. We'll turn the power on. We'll turn our switch on. We'll go to a light. And we're going to do our dimmer. Bright as can be, dim as can be. Now we got our dimmer done. We got our lights all dim or bright according to how we want them. Have a good day. Until next time. Signing off so I can go fix something else.